A small country consists of 5 states, A, B, C, D, and E. The total population of the country is 27.8 million. According to the country's constitution, the seats in the legislature are apportioned to the states according to their populations. The standard quota of each state is shown in the table. Determine each state's apportionment using Webster's method. Alright, so what we have right here is each state, A, B, C, D, and E, and then we have the standard quotas. And you'll notice that these are decimal formats. And the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and add these values together to find out what the total number of seats will be. Now I can do this by using my calculator, or I can go ahead and use Microsoft Excel to help me out with some of the heavy calculations. So when we look at this, note that I've already got a column here for states, and this is going to be A, B, C, D, and E. Then this row will be my total. I'm going to go ahead and type in my standard quotas here, which will be 43.4, 31.9, 24.4, 22.9, and 16.4. Then in this bottom row, or this bottom cell, I'm going to left click this auto sum button over here in the far right, and when I left click it, you'll notice that it highlights these first 5 values, and then it gives me the sum in the remaining cell. Simply press the enter button and you have 139. So we'll go back to the actual problem and we'll write down 139. Now in order to do this, according to Webster's method, your first guess, you should just go ahead and use traditional rounding rules. So in doing so, this first one, 43.4, will simply round to 43. 31.9 will round to 32. 24.4 will round to 24. 22.9 will round to 23. And 16.4 will round to 16. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add these 5 values to find out the total number of seats. Now remember, this is my first guess, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and do that in Excel also. So we'll go ahead and do the rounding real quick, and I want to go ahead and sum or total this column, so I'll left click auto sum, or just go ahead and press enter, and you'll notice that this value here is less than the standard quota, which means that I need to find out what my standard divisor is, and I need to go ahead and change the standard divisor in order to increase the total number of seats, and that's what we're going to do next. Now, since the sum of the standard quotas and the sum of the rounded values are not equal, that means that the standard divisor does not work. And we will need to either increase or decrease the standard divisor. Well, first off, we're not given the standard divisor in this problem, so we need to determine what it is. And we're going to do that by, we'll take the total population of 27.8 million and we're going to divide that by the number of seats. Now the number of seats, as you may recall for this one, is 139. And so we divide this and we end up with a standard divisor of 200,000. And since 200,000 is not going to work for this, we need to either increase it or decrease it. But before we do that, let's go ahead and find the population of each state. And we'll do that by multiplying the standard quota for each state by the standard divisor. So for our first state, state A, we'll take the standard quota, which will go back up, and we'll see that it's 43.4. And we will multiply that by the standard divisor of 200,000. Once we do that, we'll have our value. Now, a shortcut for this would be to use Excel for this also. And what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and type in here the standard divisor, std.divisor. And I'm going to have to add in that value, which is 200,000. And I want to do that in all 5 states. So I'm just going to left click and hold, and then pull that green box down, and you'll see that I have the standard divisor there. And now this next column is going to be the population per state. And to get the population per state, I'm going to go ahead and type equals. And then I'm going to left click the standard quota that's associated with state A. And then I'm going to type Shift 8, which gives me the asterisk bar or asterisk symbol. And then I will left click 200,000 and press enter, and that gives me my population. Now I can do that for each one of these by left clicking in that lower right hand corner and pulling down, and we'll see that we have the populations for each state. Now I want to make sure that I have the correct values here. So we'll left click auto sum, press the enter key, and it says 2.8e plus 0.07, which means that's in scientific notation because it was too big to put into the box. But we'll notice that by going ahead and expanding that particular column, we have a value now of 27,800,000 people. I'm now going to have to do calculations with a new divisor. I'm going to replace the standard divisor with a new divisor. So let's go back to this, and then we'll go ahead and we'll write out the fact that this was 8,680,000 people. And we'll do that for all 5 states. Alright, now you see that I've written out all 5 states with their associated populations. Now we want to create a new divisor. In order to create a new divisor, we're either going to have to increase or decrease the standard divisor. There is a little trick to this, okay? So, as I said, we create a new divisor, we're going to increase or decrease the standard divisor. And that's this statement right here. Now, if the sum of the standard quotas is less than the sum of the rounded quotas, then increase the standard divisor. You may have to do this a few times, and this is simply trial and error to get to the point where the sum of the standard quotas is equal to the sum of the rounded quotas. So, if the sum of the standard quotas is greater than the sum of the rounded quotas, then you will decrease the standard divisor. So in this case, we're going to use the second option because the sum of the standard quotas is greater than the sum of the rounded quotas. So, if the standard quota in this case is equal to 200,000, which it is, or I should say the standard divisor in this case, and decrease because we're using option 2 here. So let's try 199,000. So this will be our new divisor. And therefore divide each population by 199,000. Now, as I said, this may or may not work, okay? And this is simply trial and error. So what I will do is make it a little easier on myself, and I'm going to use Excel to help me. So as I said, we're going to go ahead and come up with a new divisor. We'll try 199,000, and I'm going to type that into Excel. I'm going to left click and I'm going to pull this down and get my new values. And over here, this will be my new quotas. So to get the new quota, I'm going to type the equal sign, and then I'm going to take the population of the state, and I will divide it using the slash key by the new divisor, and then press enter. I now see that I have 43.6 here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this down. That way my formula will populate. Now I want to go ahead and round again. This will round to 44. This will round to 32. This will round to 25. This will round to 23. Now I have kind of a problem with this value right here that I've just highlighted in yellow. I can go either 16.5 and then round that up to 7, or I can go 16.4 and round that down to 16. The thing about it is I want to try to key in on the tenths place if I can. So let's look at 16.4, and we'll go ahead and round that to 16, and we'll see if that works, because now when I add this column, I'm hoping to get a match to this one, which will be 139. So let's left click auto sum, press enter, and I have 140. Well, what that means is I've gone too far, and since my new divisor is 199,000 and I'm getting more for my quota, I could do one of two things. I can either go ahead and round this to 17 and see if that works, and it does not. In fact, it brings me further in the other direction, further in the other direction. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the divisor here from 199,000, and I'm going to change that to 199,500. I'm going to increase it just a little bit. You'll notice that it may or may not have an effect, and I'm just going to go ahead and change that in all 5 of these places. And now I'm going to go ahead and do my rounding. This is going to be 44. That doesn't change. This will be 32. I'm going to go ahead and round this to 24. Since I'm looking at the tenths place to start with, this will be 23, and this will also be 16. Now you notice that this value right here that I have in red matches the other value in red. So this column would indicate the actual rounded values. And like I said, it's a little bit trial and error, but once you get this value right here in red equal to this value over here, you have your answers. So let's go ahead and populate the table. And as I said, I've got this rounded to 44. This is rounded to 32. This is rounded to 24. This is rounded to 23, and this is rounded to 16. And when I add these together, I will have 139. Now, as I said, the rounding is a little bit of trial and error, and I just want to go over that one more time. And for this, let's go ahead and key in on the tenths column. Let's not worry about anything else. And I would let this be rounded to 44. This one would round to 32. This one would stay at 24. This one would round to 23. And then this one rounds to 16. Now, if that does not work, then you would go ahead and look at the hundredths place. And you may have to tweak this just a little bit. And it shouldn't be too hard to come up with the correct values. If I had to, this one right here, the 24.46, that could have been rounded to 25. And that's the only one that's ambiguous in this whole group. But notice if they did round to 25, that this value right here would be 144, and that would be incorrect. So like I said, it's a little bit of trial and error.